What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, share, all that good stuff. As you can tell, tonight we're going to be taking a look at the Dallas riots, protests, whatever you want to call them, regarding the George Floyd incident, the ones that have been taking place all across the country in the United States over the last probably week or so. This is kind of the first protest slash riot, whatever you want to call it, I've been to, and I learned a lot from it. It's an interesting experience, and I think the reason I wanted to do this is because I think this incident has been kind of looked at from every angle at this point. It's especially the George Floyd incident itself. I think from the left to the right, every take that you could possibly come up with has been spoken about and broken down to the point that I don't think there's anything new to say about the incident itself. Or I think there's some nuance in the riots in and of themselves, but as far as the case itself goes, I don't know what more there is to say about the George Floyd incident. It was, I think it was pretty obvious that what happened was wrong, and the cop deserves some type of reprimand, some type of charge. I don't know what that looks like. I'm not a lawyer, but it was clearly wrong. I don't really think anyone's disputing that. But what is obviously wrong is the response, and in my opinion, even worse than the response of the riots and the looting is the justification of the riots and the looting that we're seeing. So, I mean, we're not really going to get into too much of the philosophy behind it, but I do want to take a look at how the riots play out, what was interesting to me, seeing this kind of incident firsthand for the first time in my life. Not going to lie, there were some fun moments. I got to LARP as a leftist for a little bit, which is fun. And we'll take a look at, you'll catch me looking at my notes a little bit. I actually had to get some clips together for this one. So, yeah, we're going to take a look at a Twitter thread I put together Sunday afternoon in the aftermath of the riots, and we'll take a look at the 10 or 11 clips I have from the riots that I did not post on Twitter. That's another reason I wanted to do this, is because there's some content and some thoughts that I haven't put out on Twitter yet that I wanted to let you guys know about. So, yeah, if you guys know my politics, if you're subscribed to this channel and you're watching this, you probably kind of have an inkling of where I'm at on the political spectrum. But yeah, I think the cops have every right to meet these rioters with force. Yeah, I don't think when someone opts to live in an urban area, I don't think they're opting to have their windows broken and their local Tom Thumb looted and their local businesses destroyed. Like, no one signs up for that. And the argument of, well, that's property and that can be replaced and people can't be replaced, that's still not a justification to destroy property. So I think everyone who's watching this video knows that. But a couple things before we start. One, if you know me pretty well, this video is going to frustrate the heck out of me because my phone died about 2 hours into the protest, so I don't have a perfect chronological order of everything that happened, and I don't have a perfect map of where everything happened. I wish I had tracked my steps as I was walking through Dallas for 6 hours, but I didn't. So I'm kind of having to go off of memory. From what I remember, there were two really important parts. There was part one of the riots, and then my friend and I parked in a different spot, and that's when the more interesting stuff happens. But we'll take a look at all of it. So this one will frustrate me a little bit because I know I'm not capturing all the details that I saw that night, but that's fine. And then part two, as I always say, I don't know how long this video will go. 30 minutes, an hour, we'll see. But let's jump right in. We're going to look at my Twitter thread first. Okay. So yeah, I posted this on Sunday. Okay. So yeah, here we go. And we're not going to look at the clip quite yet because we'll look at all the clips at once. But so it says, as you all know, I was at the protests in Dallas last night, and suffice it to say, I learned a lot. The question of, are these riots and looting organic, or is it funded, or is it Antifa and Soros funded, is misleading. It's a combo, but not in the way you'd think. The protests began should have said organically, but begin organically like this. And we'll look at that video in a little bit. So yeah, what happens is agitators end up working their way into large groups and asking people, hey, can you look up a jewelry store? Do y'all know if there's Gucci around here, to the locals? If these people were from Dallas, they wouldn't wouldn't they know where these are? These are the agitator groups. That's one of the videos we'll look at. So yeah, there's two guys in this video that are kind of crucial to this entire video I'm making here, but the two men in full face masks carrying semi-autos were the kind of out-of-state agitators I was referring to. They had no knowledge of the area, couldn't tell me where in Dallas they were from, and the cops peculiarly let them break windows and walk around with guns with impunity. But here's the thing. Once these few agitators start breaking windows or do find a place to loot, the looting groups are legitimately 95% black and Hispanic. So then the question is, why are they so eager to loot? That's a different question, but it results in what we're looking at here. I think that was about it for those. So, yeah, so that's one of the big things. I took a little bit of heat for it on Twitter because people were saying that I was shifting responsibility away from the people who are primarily the minorities doing the looting, which is true. That's totally accurate. And putting the blame on Soros and Antifa like Jack Posobiec and Mike Cernovich are doing. That's not what I'm doing here. And you'll see what I mean when we look at the clips, but saying that there are out of state or even out of country influences, people like Soros or Black Lives Matter, or even Antifa, that's not saying that the people who are doing the looting are free of responsibility. It doesn't even mean that they're even 5% of the problem. What I'm saying is that they exist and that their money does serve as influence to instigate these rallies a little bit in places where it may not have been as instigated or as violent. Now, we don't know for sure because we're just dealt the cards. We're dealt the hand that we have to play. So I don't know for sure. I don't know if they would have been as violent if if Antifa or BLM or Soros money wasn't there. But all I'm saying is I could certainly tell that there were out-of-state agitators who had money behind them. So again, like I said, there's two parts to this rally. Or I'm just going to call them riots. It's easier. There were two parts. I go part one and part two. So part one is these few clips right here. Okay.
Crowd headed towards downtown right now. Rock strong. Not too crazy yet.
Pretty tame part of the video there. Nothing too wild so far. So then we have the next clip, and these are all from part one before we moved our car, and I'll show a map after we finish part one. But
hey,
so this one's actually. So these guys are the ones I was talking about that seemed like they had out of community money. These guys right here had full map. Here, let's start it over.
hey,
Trench coats, semi-autos. That guy. So yeah, those two guys right there. So my friend and I, who I was walking with, we would ask them, like we kind of had a feeling that they were from out of state because so it was a really large group. I would probably say at first like 20 or 30 people. We were walking with these two guys and a group of probably 20 or 30 other people. And these guys were like hell bent on telling us how much violence they were going to cause that night. And me reading the news or reading our side of the news, I knew that like something was off about them. The fact that they were carrying semi-automatic rifles and were not concerned about getting caught, the fact that they were talking about the things they were trying to light on fire, the fact that they were asking us directions on how to get to jewelry stores, how to start looting. It was very fishy. So then also if you go back here, eventually what happened, right here is a train, it's like a train depot, like a DART station, a Dallas area rapid transit station down here. This guy ended up lighting a fire in one of the trash cans, and like you can tell the people that are like concerned when they do something like that versus the people that are like just doing it knowing they're going to get away with it. So these two guys walked past multiple cop cars with their guns on their shoulders. Cops never stopped them, nothing. It was almost like they had a free pass. They couldn't tell us where in Dallas they were from, and we pushed them on it. They wanted to ride with us the whole time. They were very odd guys. They very much appeared like they had some type of protection that other people didn't have who were riding. We'll go to 81. So this was right after that. I think they may have fired some of those shots, but I'm not sure what those shots are. I can't tell if it's guns or if it's some type of rockets or something. But this was right after that. Looting ends up starting here. You can tell the people are starting to run into that little crevice. I think that's like an indoor mall area. Yeah. And then on the way back from this area, this is another video I got. So yeah, so that's really all that happened in that first part. The second part is where it gets a little more interesting and bigger picture, but the big takeaway from that first segment, that this video really ends part one. So we parked, oh, we can do a quick little map thing. This isn't that interesting, but so this is Clyde Warren Park in Dallas. Did I pull up a picture? It's a beautiful park. It's very nice. It's it's a really cool park. It's on top of like one of the major highways that goes through Dallas. It's like Dallas trying to have its own little central park, but it's cool. And so we parked like to the north side of it. So like if you follow the cursor, like up here kind of, and we worked our way down into here, the south side, which is like closer to downtown. So at this point, part one was kind of us trying to get into downtown. It was blocked off. It wasn't that interesting. The only interesting tidbit from part one was those guys who were trying to instigate the fight. But this is kind of like the north side of that highway, which is the nicer area. So this is outside of the Ritz-Carlton in Dallas.
A little aftermath of the Dallas riots. We got this. These cars are well outside of the radius of any type of protest or anything, so just to get a sense of the indiscriminate nature of the violence, pretty crazy.
Yeah, so each of those cars that you can see,
these cars are well outside of the radius of any type of protest or anything, so
like down there, all these cars had broken windows, and this is like you can tell by aesthetics like what area is nice and what isn't. Like, yeah, this has nice lit trees, Lexus SUVs, Bentleys, Aston Martins, all of them had at least one broken window. So that kind of goes to show you also these riots aren't even really about like racial justice anymore. It's like racial revenge. Hopefully if you're watching this video, you already knew that. But so yeah, that was kind of part one. We went to Clyde Warren Park, passed over that, got boring, we turned around. The one funny thing that did happen though, that I will say, so I brought my bullhorn that I brought with me. If you've ever seen the pictures or any of the videos, I was with Owen Schroyer and Alex Jones in March at the state capitol in Austin, protesting at the state capitol to open Texas back up, and I bought a bullhorn for that. And I still had it in the back of my car when I went to these riots. And I brought it with me, and man, I wish I had video of it. My phone was dead at this point, but I got the inkling to pretend to be a leftist, and I got the bullhorn and gave the most impromptu leftist speech just using their using their buzzwords and dog whistles. So I gave maybe like a 3 minute like rant in front of the police with the leftists behind me, like, you wonder why we're here? We're here because of 400 years of oppression, and you guys still can't treat us like humans. And it's like, it's not that I'm some like badass speaker. It's the fact is that with leftists, I learned this that night. It was a huge red pill for me. With leftists, you can literally just use dog words or dog whistles and buzzwords, and they will think that you're like Messiah sent. So I had like girls like, that was a great speech. But man, if it's so easy that like I see how people rise to the top in leftism, because that's all you have to do. You just have to say buzzwords and say them eloquently, and people be like, that's a great point, man. It was interesting to me. So that was a big wake up call for me. I was like, whoa, that's all you have to do to be a high profile leftist is just say a few throwaway buzzwords. So that was an interesting one. We're going to go into part 2 now. Part 2 is where it starts to get a little more interesting. So for reference, so what happened? All right, so what happened was originally, just follow the cursor. We were parked right around here originally. Yeah, there's the Ritz-Carlton that I was saying. Exactly. So yeah, there's the lit trees we were talking about. The cars were lined up right there. So we were parked here. Follow the cursor. We went down here, crossed over Clyde Warren. It was boring down here. No, it was all splitting up at that point. A couple rocks thrown, a couple people trying to instigate, but it was like, there's nothing happening here. So we go back up to the car here, and move down here. This is where it gets a little more interesting. We move down here to kind of a little bit worse part of Dallas, but it's where all the action ends up happening. So we park at this lot off McKinney Avenue. And here you have the Perot Museum. And if you don't know what the Perot Museum is, it is a modern architectural eyesore, one that you would see in Europe, but it is a cool museum, I'm not going to lie, but it's just such an eyesore. Jagged edges. It looks like someone threw a piece of glass into a piece of stone. But it's a cool museum though, so we park kind of around there. And then the next clips are what happens after that. All right. So this starts part 2. This is when it starts to get a little crazier. So right here, if you're not from Dallas, you wouldn't really know, but that little sign at the cursor, that's the El Phoenix sign. That's like I think it's like the oldest El Phoenix either in Dallas or in the country. I'm not sure, but this one building over is the Perot Museum. So like the Perot Museum would be right there. It's really like something out of The Purge, honestly, the more I look at it. And I was getting those vibes last night. I was like, or not last night, on Saturday. I was like, damn, this really feels like something out of The Purge. It's not even a meme at this point. It's not like, ooh, The Purge. No, it really feels that way once you walk along these streets and the total disregard for like rule of law. It's pretty bad out there. It's pretty bad. So clip 2 from part 2. Just look, I mean, for reference, Dallas isn't like, I mean, it is a big city. It's the 9th largest city in America, but it's not, we're not talking New York, LA, Chicago here. This is a lot of people for Dallas. Of course, someone's smoking weed in the crowd. Degenerate. Degenerate. Not surprised. It was a crowd of degenerates. Sucks to say. This was from part 1. Okay. Go to 69. Here we go. This one was interesting. So this is the last video I'm able to capture on my phone before the couple nuance points, and then we'll wrap the video up. But so yeah, in Minneapolis, they highlighted this video, and you guys have probably seen it, where there's a guy dressed in, it's a white guy actually, dressed in all black, and he has a black umbrella, and he's just like methodically smashing windows one by one in an AutoZone to kind of instigate violence. And a lot of people said that that was like an example of a Fed or Antifa trying to like add fuel to the fire on the violence. This is kind of what I gather from this video. I'm not saying that's for sure, but I'll add a little nuance to that afterward, but this is kind of what I saw here.
Damn, dog. I think we went the wrong way. We came right.
See, like, what is he doing that for? He's not even looting. Like, to what end? You're not doing anything. You're just breaking a window. Now, granted, he's not in, like, full military garb like the other guy was, but it does look a little bit odd to me. And then I wanted to take a look at one other video and that I can kind of speak to because I saw a similar thing. Okay. And we're going to take, I found a second one in the meantime that we can look at also, but check this out. So this was from Saturday also, I think, from the night I was out there. Check this out.
Right here?
Yeah, they put them there
This
on
the
purpose.
setup.
They put them there on purpose,
Y'all know
bro.
where we at.
They gonna set them on right up on the route of
Y'all know what building this is
Come
right
on
here.
now.
I ain't even gonna say what name it is.
The AT&T building. That's what he wants to say.
They gonna set them on right up on the route of
Y'all know what building this is
Come
right
on
here.
now.
I ain't even gonna say what name it is.
Hey, where do them bricks go to? Where do them
This
bricks
is
go
setup.
to? Where do them bricks
We gotta
go to?
do better.
Ain't no damn
We gotta
construction.
do better.
Ain't no damn construction around here.
I see.
Ain't no damn construction around here. You just gonna set a pallet of bricks right there. Oh, okay.
Listen, I did jury duty 3 months ago. Y'all don't keep no bricks right there. Do better.
So if you'd missed it, what he's saying is that there's a pallet of bricks in the middle of the intersection where there is absolutely no construction happening. Look, I got some hate when I retweeted this tweet that this guy, let's see, hold on. Yeah, 80,000 retweets. And I'm glad this guy highlighted it. I got some hate when I retweeted it because a lot of people were saying like, oh, you're trying to shift blame away from the rioters and put it on abstract people like Soros. No, I'm not saying that. It's just that the big question you have to ask yourself is why would those people have such low impulse control that if they see a pile of bricks that they have to throw them? That's really the point that needs to be made. But the bigger point is like there is big money being flooded into this movement. That's not shifting blame away from the rioters and the looters or anything. They are just as at fault. I'm not saying they don't deserve to go to jail or anything to happen to them. What I am saying is that these bricks do not need to be there. So you're saying, oh, well, it's just Dallas. That's just a big city. They could have been doing work across the street. Well, this is just now in Frisco. Frisco is 45 minutes north of Dallas, and it's the second wealthiest suburb. No, don't quote me on that. I know it's the first or second wealthiest suburb in the DFW Metroplex. These are being planted there. This was just now, 5 hours ago. There's not even any work being done. I know that highway. There's no work being done there. Come on. Look at this. What is this? Why are bricks everywhere? There's no construction happening. Come on. A little too fishy for me. I went on a tangent there, but so the last part of the video, I'm sorry, this hasn't been a great video. I've been a little schizophrenic on this one. It's like I'm not all there, but Okay, all right. So we have the Perot Museum. So this is where kind of part two ends. So we saw part two of the video with the guy with the hammers and the methodical damage done to buildings to kind of instigate violence a little bit. So here we have a street view of the Perot Museum. So we'll do a 360. So down here, roughly, if you follow the cursor, roughly down there was where I was parked, me and my friend. We walked around and through to here with the large group that you saw of 30, 40 people, and it got bigger. So eventually there were groups of hundreds of people. So, and this is why I'm upset about the phone, because I don't have video of this, but these windows are all gone now today. Like these graphics you see as of as of May 30th, 2020, all these windows are gone. I witnessed just, so that's what happened there. They went up this area, and then if you see the rooftops here, take note of these rooftops. We end up here. Those are the rooftops that I'm talking about. So if you go down here to your right, you'll hit the Perot Museum. And this was probably the most telling part of the entire night for me. So I come down here. At this point I had lost my friend because there were people trying to loot a Rolex store. And I quit because I wasn't there to loot. I was there to get video. I'm not going to lie. I saw stairs and people sprinting up towards a mall type area, and I just heard a bunch of people screaming Rolex. And I just sat on the steps because I saw probably 20 cops get out of their car and chase that whole group. So I said, nope, not going. Don't want to do that tonight. So I stayed, walked my way back here, and I stumble upon, I'm going to say 50 people. 50 people right here. And they're throwing rocks at these windows, climbing into these windows, breaking these windows, going through there, breaking some of those windows. And I saw a few people. Yeah, you see a homeless person here. Yeah, I saw a lot of looting happening here. But then the funny thing to me was the stark contrast. So you had 50 to 100 low-income minorities here throwing rocks at this, looting this. But then there was a group of 20 to 30 locals here and behind these gates who lived in these apartments filming this. And it was such a stark contrast because I didn't know that they were looting. I just stumbled upon this and I was like, ostensibly these people who are taking video here are like liberal Democrats, right? Because maybe not in Dallas, but Dallas is kind of one off when it comes to urban areas. But any other urban area where someone's living in like a high rise, they're going to be voting Democrat. They're going to, support all the diversity causes, all the affirmative action causes, all the BLM supporting white liberals. These people were getting a first-hand look of what diversity looks like. They don't have to encounter diversity on a daily basis. So imagine living here and you're watching someone from 10 miles that way looting your local Tom Thumb. So hopefully that was a little bit of a wake-up call to these people. I mean, I'm not saying I want them to be racist or anything. I just think that it would probably be in their best interest to recognize, the fact that diversity probably is not always going to play out in their strength, or in their favor, rather. So, yeah, I'll never forget that. This scene is ingrained in my mind. It was like something out of like Black Hawk Down, if you've ever seen it. It was like 50 of them out here, in here. And to be fair to them, they weren't harassing these people, but these people were like, this is what diversity looks like? It's like, yeah, I could have told you that. So, and then the other thing, the last thing, probably the second most interesting thing I saw throughout that night was, so as I kept going this way to try to find my friend, I kept going this way. kept walking. And as I kept walking, I encountered this area and this area and that area with that building. And the thing about Dallas, it's probably not specific to Dallas, but there are high rises all throughout the main streets and people, out on their balconies and stuff. The people who live on these balconies were actively watching the riots play out. They were watching the police, like it was like a Madden game for them. They were watching like the police clash with the protesters, and they were watching the police push the protesters back. I heard chants from these balconies saying Dallas PED, Dallas PED. Like there were hundreds of people rooting for the police. And then I saw people on the ground throwing rocks up at the people on the balconies and threatening them. And the people on the balconies were throwing bottles back down at the people on the ground. It was like the ultimate class warfare. It was the biggest class warfare that I had ever seen, like up close and front in my life. Because you have these people, and these people aren't like liberals necessarily, like they're conservatives who are rooting for law and order in their community, saying like, get out of our community. We're tired of it being ransacked by you every night for the last week. I mean, is that a flip from blue to red? I don't think so. I don't know. Were they red before? I didn't poll them. I don't live in these buildings. I live on the outskirts, so I didn't poll them. I don't know what their political beliefs are, but that was super interesting to me to see people like grouping up as a community, chanting Dallas PD and screaming like, get out of here, you're causing trouble. I've never seen that because in our society, we're so atomized to the point that unless you're personally affected, you have no right to say anything. But these people were responding to a communal threat, an outsider threat. And is that a sign of things to come in the 20s and the 30s of the 21st century? I don't know. Made me think. Should make you think too. But yeah, so you have that. What else do I have? There's not much else. I mean, it was I'm not going to say it was tame. There was a lot of rock throwing and there was a lot of general mayhem, but, there weren't gunshots or anything, but I'm sorry, the rioters aren't civilized. If all it takes is for a couple bricks to be laid out in front of you for you to start looting the Gucci store, what does that say about you? That's the bigger question. It's like, I mean, yeah, it's wrong to fund a movement like that or fund bricks being laid out in the middle of the road. But, if you're that easily susceptible to violence, I mean, aren't you kind of the problem? So I'm not sure. I saw a lot of people. I heard a lot of people as I was getting in my car for the end of the night, like a lot of people that I had seen like actively fighting against the cops, they were playing like aggrieved victim status, and they were literally crying in their car. Oh, they want to hit us. They hitting us. They threw tear gas, and these are the same people that I saw like walking big, bad, and tough an hour before. Like there's no relation in their mind between like, hey, if I try to threaten the police, maybe something bad will happen. But overall, the cops were cool though. I could tell the cops had had enough for the night. I tried to cross the street and one of the cops was like, where are you going? Like he was kind of looking for a fight, but you just have to know how to, play the game. And I was like, officer, I'm just going to my car. He's like, you going home for the night? And I was like, yeah, we're headed home. You can't be dumb and be like, hey, what? It's my right to walk. It's like, what do you expect at that point? So it's like, I saw a lot of that from the cops. They weren't being overly aggressive, but they were definitely like fed up with the fighting, which was, I don't blame them. I'd be tired of it too. And the last thing that I said earlier was that this riot was really telling to me because I heard one mention of George Floyd on Saturday. One. There was one chant about George Floyd. There was nothing else really about him. No one said justice for George, justice for Floyd, nothing like that. It was all very abstract, no justice, no peace. There was nothing about Floyd. That tells me that these riots have gone beyond what happened in Minneapolis. This these are race riots, and it's starting to bleed into like class warfare actually. So when I heard the people from the balconies yelling, get out of here, you don't belong here, and the people from the bottom saying, F y'all, we're going to throw rocks at you, we have guns. That's class warfare. That's proletariat versus bourgeoisie right there. And I really think that's where we're headed, towards like a French Revolution situation, but we'll see. We'll see. I don't want it to happen, but it feels inevitable at this point. So, I don't know. This video was a little bit scatterbrained and all over the place. I hope it was okay, but yeah, let me know what you think in the comments below. Like, comment, subscribe, share the video. But yeah, these were just my takeaways from the Dallas riots. Not as bad as it was in some other cities, but the fact that it got this bad in Dallas is very telling to me, because Dallas really does pride itself on its law and order. Like, it's very much so like a Texas city in that sense, where it's like, we got the law and order here, in a way that you don't have in like a Houston or like a San Antonio. Or especially like in El Paso. But yeah, the fact that it can happen here, and watching those kind of things happen was interesting to me. So let me know what you think. Yeah, you guys have a good night. I'll see you next time.